lost your way, colors start to fade. Take a look within, find your offering. Hold it to the sun, let your spirit run. Remember, find your center. My love is just a reminder, find your center. My love is just a reminder. My love is just a reminder, find your center. My love is just a reminder. My love is just a reminder, find your center. My love is just a reminder. My love is just a reminder, find your center. My love is just a reminder.
Hello, hello. Can everyone hear me? Amazing. All right. Can we all just agree that sometimes technology is the hardest part of these? Holy moly. I'm just going to scroll through and see who we've got. Amazing. Amazing. Valerie, Jeff and Sharon Jensen. I think we might have the same addicted loved one. Kreslin. Layla. Jenny B. Jenny B taking time away from her niece. Samantha. Danielle, Chase. Hi, Chase. Tracy, you made it. Yay. Christy. Just let me drop in here with all of you. Katie, my girl Katie. Hey, baby. We got Coach Ray. We got Smart, Sexy, and Beautiful Mom. That is the best name. I think I might change mine to that. That is amazing. We've got someone on an iPhone. We've got Heather. Hi, Heather. Steph, and Diane. Shelby. You guys, we got a full house tonight. Of course, you know the way that it works with the free masterclass. You've got people who sign up and then they go, you know what, I'd much rather Netflix and chill. So, but that's okay. That's okay. We still love them. I am so thrilled that everyone's here. And I just want to take a minute, if everyone's okay with this, and just do a little bit of a drop in into this container, coming into this space from whatever day you've had, from the stress, from the hustle and bustle, and just get our systems regulated to this container. and open ourselves up to being willing to learn, to be teachable, to learn from my experience, my strength, and my hope, because that's what I have to share with you tonight. So if everyone just wants to take a minute wherever they are, and just, as long as you're not driving, close down your eyes and just feel the breath in your body. Just feel the way that your breath is breathing. And just beginning to take deep breaths in through the nose, and then letting it fall, maybe through the mouth. Maybe it feels better to come through the nose. Just allowing your body to begin to actually feel that breath. Just becoming in tune, letting yourself connect to this class, to this container, to this group, connecting yourself with your breath. Just bringing ourselves into this present moment. Dropping any chaos that came from today, any stress. Maybe there was a lot of happiness and gratitude, and amplifying that with your breath. Tonight, what I'm going to ask that every experience is honored. That tonight you be willing to learn a new role that maybe you could play. A role that would bring more inner peace to you. Whether your addicted loved one is currently in recovery, maybe your addicted loved one is currently in active addiction. Maybe you have a beautiful angel that has left this earth and is watching over you. Continuing to bring that breath in and out of the body as you settle into this space. Maybe you're coming tonight because you are curious about the disease of addiction. Maybe you find yourself addicted to something. Tonight I hold space for every single experience. I hold space for those who love an addict, for those who are addicted themselves. Just continuing to be with your breath, settling your system, letting your nervous system be here, opening up your heart. Being open to the connections that can be made. Just allowing yourself to kind of wiggle your hands, your fingers, your toes, and come into this space. Opening back up your eyes. Just being here and now. Hello and welcome. tonight, I just want to truly, it's funny as you come into this world, I'm not even sure what I'm referring to in this world, but into this where you feel like you have a message. I knew a lot of people know my story of I tried on nutrition coaching back in 2020 when COVID hit and my life kind of shifted. And I tried on nutrition coaching for about 4 or 5 months. And the truth is it did not align with me. There was something that was out of alignment with nutrition coaching. However, I knew at a soul level that there was something that I was meant to do that was to connect with others and help others. And at the time, I did not know what that was. I had no idea. And as I started to go on my own journey of really finding this thing that people were calling inner peace, really defining what a higher power and what spirituality meant to me. And I found myself in the world of breath work, and breath work has become my vehicle today into where it's my vehicle to take me to be able to give power back to people. Now, as I started to really ponder on some of my life experiences, I want to be totally honest with each one of you that I actually come from pretty good family. I come from a couple who is on this call who's still married 40 something years, 5, 6, 7, something. Oh, maybe almost 50. I don't know. And, I started to think, I'm so blessed. Like I really haven't been through anything. And I had someone approach me at one time and they were talking about these emotional blocks that we can all go through life and we can end up with these emotions that get lodged in our system, traumas. I remember she said, and I said, oh, I don't have any trauma. I really don't. Like I don't really have trauma. And she was just like, we all have trauma to some degree. So as I started to think about the experience with an addicted loved one and how my body actually perceived that. And so as I started in this world of breath work and as I started helping people find their breath and come back in touch with their breath and come back in touch with their bodies, I started to heal from something that happened 9.5 years ago. My addicted loved one is 9.5 years sober. And I started to heal from stuff that happened. And I realized that our bodies are these powerful things that truly can heal. They can heal themselves. They can heal from trauma. And so this course tonight, this masterclass is brought to you because I want to give strength. I want to give hope, and I want to give light to you all out there who are dealing with an addicted loved one. Like I said, whether they are still here, whether they're in recovery, whether they're out using, whether maybe you are coming to this masterclass as the addict yourself. I respect everyone where they are. Here's my little blurb. I will be your guide tonight. If that's a shock to anyone wants to get off now, you're free to, but it is me and only me. I'm a mom of 2 amazing humans. I'm a wife to a bearded, tattooed man who does breath work and cries. A sibling to a brother in addiction recovery. I am the co-host on the Key Nutrition podcast, which is with my addicted loved one. And I'm a breath guide and coach to those desiring a better way of life. Tonight, as we go through the masterclass, I am going to be respectful of your time. I'm only going to take maybe 60, maybe 90. 90 is pushing it, but 60 minutes of your time. And what I want is tonight, everyone's experience is valid and honored. Okay. I invite everyone to have their cameras on. However, your choice, totally your choice. You do not have to. Your voice is important. I want to hear from you. So if ever time you have something, some input, a question, anything like that, what you can do is on your Zoom, you can find it's a participant hand raise, and then your little hand will go up on your picture. That way I'll know, hey, come off mute and talk. I've never been one that really just like loves to hear my own voice. It's kind of funny because on the podcast, I am definitely the co-host, because the host, he does like to hear his voice. So it's like, it works perfect though. It's like perfect. At the end, I'm going to just do a few giveaways. Okay. So just staying the entire time, bearing with me the whole night, you get rewarded. It's, how it works. So tears are welcome. They're a very healthy sign that we're feeling and we're alive. Okay. We're talking about a very sensitive subject. We're talking about a very vulnerable subject. Tears are totally welcome. I can totally hold space for that. Understanding that sometimes I just need to pause and recenter myself. So if I ever go quiet and kind of step back, I'm just kind of feeling in, and I just need to recenter to find my words again. This is all new to me. I really wish that I could promise to solve all of your problems tonight. I wish that I could say, when you get off tonight, you're going to have every answer. But that is like going to a nutrition coach and having them solve your problems overnight. Everyone wants the diet pill. Everyone wants the quick fix, right? Unfortunately, I can't solve all your problems. This takes consistent work. And I hope that all of you will understand that, but take away tonight what you truly need to catapult you forward in doing this work. And again, use the chat in Zoom, please. I've got it over here. So if I ever look away, I'm just looking at the chat that's over here. Reactions, you can find the little reaction button so that if someone's sharing or if something I say is resonating, maybe throw up a heart, a party sign, something, just keeping you engaged and knowing that what I'm saying is resonating. And I, again, hand raising so that I can see if at any time you have something to say, please, by all means. This is my addicted loved one. Here I am putting him in my dolly stroller because he is my baby brother. So he is the baby of the family. It then goes me. Then there's a little bit of a gap, and then it's boom, 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 boom. 3 that are pretty close in age. So when my parents brought Brad home from the hospital, I was kind of ticked off that it was a boy because that is my 4th brother. But I loved him immediately. And I truly, he was my baby doll, if you can't see. So he's in my dolly stroller. He hates it. I climbed in the crib with him. Really, really, really liked him. He was just my little homie. He was my cup of tea. And, time goes on, and this here depicts some of his darkest days. We had a really codependent relationship as he started to use drugs. It really came out that he was addicted when he was about, I think, 18. And I'm not going to try to keep all the timelines straight because it's impossible. But here, it's also hard if you ever go back to try to find your addicted loved ones in pictures. It's very hard during their use. I threw a party for him in this picture, and he showed up very, very high. Here you can see it in his eyes. And here is where I finally found myself, and I found peace, regardless of what the addicted loved one in my life was doing. But it took work. It took so much work. And realizing that there's so much that when we have an addicted loved one, it can really, really disrupt our peace, and it can really, really take away from our happiness, because it almost feels like, how can we go on when they're creating, first of all, chaos, right? Anyone feel that, where it's just constant chaos? Like you almost start to learn how to thrive on chaos, which is sick. But you totally start to just go, okay, this is how it is. And every day is just fight or flight. So you don't ever want to let your guard down, because you never know when the next thing's going to happen. So I want to pose this question to you. And if you have a piece of paper near a journal, anything that you can just jot down, in what ways is your inner peace being affected by a loved one's addiction? Now, with that being the question, and knowing we have an array of people here, I want to know, or I want you to start to jot down, in what ways was your inner peace compromised? What ways is it compromised today? Even if your addicted loved one has gained their angel wings, what is the chaos that happens that takes away from your inner peace? And maybe that's just grief on a daily basis. Maybe that's feeling angry for the years that you had to deal with their addiction. And maybe if they're in recovery, this question for me, because my addicted loved one is 9.5 years sober. By the grace of God, I'm telling you, by the grace of God, he's still here. It got really bad. It got so bad to the point my parents had written out his obituary. I had written him completely off because, and I kind of want some head nods if anyone's ever been in this position, you have written them off to the point that you feel like, when I get the call that they've overdosed, I won't be sad because I have distanced myself and written them off. That's where I was. There was no way, if there wasn't a higher power, divine energy, universe, something, that my brother was going to make it. He was bottom of the barrel. So what ways is your inner peace being affected by your loved one's addiction? Just jotting some stuff down and then coming over to the chat and yes. Yep. Yeah. You're waiting for that phone call, Chase. I know that feeling. We hope for death to get us off the roller coaster. Wrestling. Yes. Oh, confusion, frustration, concern, anxious, worry. Yes. And all of those take away from your inner peace. Cycle of anxiety, resentment. Oh, yes. Oh, yes, Jenny. Constant worry. Resentment. So it's so huge. The whole roller coaster. Yeah. Wanting to hope, but being expected to be let down. Anger. The day before I got the call, I told my friend I knew that would be it. Expectations of what they expect from you. Yes. Oh, expectations. Oh. Yes. All of these things that you're listing take away from that inner peace. It is so hard to truly create that inner peace when we have all of these things going on. So when it comes to addiction, right, it really takes just taking little chunks at a time and working on that little snippet of a thing, right? Because it feels too big, at least to me. I'll never forget when, let me just tell this brief little story. I'll never forget when it got so bad, right? It got so bad. So my addicted loved one's name is Brad. And he's fine with me sharing everything and anything. We've cleared this up. It got so bad with Brad. I started to create chaos in my life because you know what I realized today while I'm healing through it? Guess why I was creating chaos in my life? I wanted attention from my parents. The attention was going elsewhere. So I started to create all of this chaos in my life to the point I got pregnant. I had a baby. She's the biggest blessing in my life today. But at the time, hey, look at me, right? Bad attention, still attention. Okay. I started to really, really just crave that attention. And it always gets worse before it gets better. And it got really bad. And we got Brad to my parents' house, which at the time I was living there, and he was detoxing without medical care in my parents' recliner. And I started to, I was in a basement room, and it was right above where he was in that recliner, and he would put the recliner out, and then he'd put the recliner in, he'd put the recliner out, he'd put the recliner in, you'd hear him go to the bathroom and puke and all this. And I started to associate that sound, the recliner going in and out, with Brad detoxing. So it took me forever to start to associate that sound. Okay, we're safe. We're safe. We're safe, right? Because our system says you're not safe. You're not safe. And I was in beauty school at the time. That was an adorable little thing that didn't work either. Well, I graduated, that part's cool, and my parents called me, I'll never forget. And they said, we got him to rehab. We got him there. We got him checked in. We left. He didn't follow us. And we're like, we're good. We're golden. We're home. That's all we needed. That's all we needed was to get Brad into rehab. It went on for about 8 more years. So it's not the end of it, right? When we finally get them help, that's not always the answer. So we started to realize as a family, I'll never forget in that first rehab that Brad went to, I'll never forget when the therapist, the counselor, the family counselor, looked at myself and my parents and said, this is a family disease. And I was like, bullshit, I don't have a problem. This is not a family disease. I'm not the one with the problem. And I started to realize how it is a family disease. It truly is. It affects everybody. It affects all of your loved ones, right? So whether you are coming tonight and you've got a spouse, a sibling, a child, again, maybe it's you that is struggling, and maybe it's you that is struggling with something because maybe you saw your parents, right? Maybe that's your addicted loved one and it's trickled down, whatever the thing is. I want to give you tonight. Now, listen, nothing in this world, unless it's a brand new invention, is like me reinventing the wheel. It's nothing you're coming tonight and going to be like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize that's what I needed to do, right? What these are is they're made to be reminders for you. And all of these things that everyone listed, the anger, the resentment, the expectations of what they expect from you, wanting to choose out and it feels selfish and it shouldn't be selfish. Yeah, I don't want to peace out. Yep. There was multiple times that I would tell my parents, hey, I'm the sibling, so I'm done. Peace out. Right. I wish it was that easy. But just, so all the things, I came up with a list of my own. Okay. First one is, I want you guys to think in terms tonight of like you're in a movie. Okay. And you're playing the role of the codependent. Okay. Codependency. It is so codependency, man. When we start to learn to depend on another person for our happiness, womp womp. That's the worst. I mean, we lose all free agency, right? Our happiness and our inner peace are now contingent upon what another person's doing, feeling, behaving, right? We don't have control at that point. But that is truly how I felt. I felt when Brad's sober, life is good. I'm happy. Like we can all go on. Right. And a lot of people like sometimes will not see their codependency natures, right? Loving those you can pity and rescue. Oh my gosh, I was so good at this. I was so good at this. I would choose every single man that needed pity and rescue. Truly. Taking on responsibility for others' actions. The number of times like, and mom and dad, keep in mind, this is no crass to you too. Like we would have to, when he first started using, it was kind of like, okay, let's not let the neighbors know, right? Let's not let the people in, the neighborhood know. Like, so, if there's cops here, let's just say, oh, it was a misunderstanding, right? We have to start covering up people's actions, right? And you do more than your share in the relationship to just keep the peace, right? We just have to tiptoe around on eggshells because we got to keep the peace. We got to keep the peace. You need approval from others to gain your own self-worth. This, like approval from others, approval from the scale. Let's just go like real broad, right? That self-worth, let's talk about it. That totally is an inside job, right? And we are born worthy. We're born worthy. When do we forget that? Right? Your moods are controlled by the thoughts and feelings of those around you. Okay. So that's the role of the codependent. To me, I want to audition for a new role. Okay. I knew I did. My codependency seeped past Brad's sobriety date into my relationships, into my marriage. And I realized the codependency nature that was still involved in Brad and I. It was pretty wild. It was pretty wild to see that happen. So what is the new role that maybe you could audition for? Does anyone want to type it in the chat? Like, what would be the opposite for codependent to you? Like, what would be a better, like a little bit of an upgrade, maybe in an audition? I'm curious if anyone's on mentor, independent. Ding, ding, ding. Valerie, you nailed it. So the independent person, right? Or I like the mentor too, because this is totally that a mentor is, right? A mentor is very independent. I have a mentor right now and she's very independent. So you become independent of your addict. Okay. I know that's easier said than done. And when I'm saying all this tonight, I'm saying it with so much love because I know that's so much easier said than done, right? But you aren't your addict. You aren't. So start to practice these smart selfishness, right? These little acts, right? That people get so twisted up of like, well, I don't know. I just feel selfish because I can't take that time, right? So notice your patterns in your responses. Could you respond differently and feel better about it in the long run? Okay. So start to notice, start to be like, okay, could my response be a little bit different that I'm going to feel better? Like right now I could say this and keep the peace, but I could say this and in the long run, it's going to be better, right? Because a lot of times we tend to do that. I get it. It's a people pleasing nature too, totally, that we do. Honor your wants, your needs, your feelings. Establishing boundaries can seem hurtful. Oh, totally. Yes, Coach Ray, totally. Boundaries. So many people think like, oh my gosh, she's rude. She's mean. She's like, so rigid. Oh my gosh. Yeah, but they're so helpful. So starting to honor your wants, your needs, your feelings, okay, for the long good of the relationship. Again, right then, I had a conversation with Brad just the other night that was so uncomfortable. And we were both kind of trying to, I mean, us Jensens just have loud voices, but like we were trying to talk over each other. Right. And it was like, really at some points I felt like I could just be like, okay. I yes, to keep the peace. But I was like, no, you know what? I have got to, this is for me. This is for me to practice this independence part, right? Getting to know your own true needs. Who here, raise a hand, who feels like, how do I respond? That makes me feel better rather than responding in a way that keeps peace. Yes. What do I need? What do you need? Do any of you here, do you feel like you truly know what your own true needs are? Like your true needs, aside from your spouse, aside from your kids, aside from your mom, Do you feel like like you could make a list of what your true needs are? Tracy, no. Most. Chase, you've done some work. Kreslin, I need to get back a backbone to be able to set the boundaries. Yes, a few, but probably not all. Yeah, I can get on board with all that. I think that it really takes like sitting down and saying, what do I need? Like, what is it that I need to feel fulfilled? Right? So the new role, I suggest everyone audition for the independent. Okay. Codependence. Here's the thing that I'm finding. Okay. Respecting where everyone's coming from in their addiction story. My addicted loved one's 9.5 years sober. By the grace of God, he's still here. Okay. So not undermining the fact that it got really, really bad. Now, what I find was in the decade, 10 years of really, really gnarly addiction, I learned to be codependent. Guess what happened? It started to bleed out everywhere, not just with my addicted loved one. It was starting to bleed out into all places in my life. So codependency can do that. You become codependent and you start to practice that in a lot of different roles in your life. So choose the independent. The next one, who here is a fixer? Likes to fix. Me too. I like to fix. That's why I married my husband. I wanted to fix him. I love him and he's great and things are good now, but I wanted to fix him at first. I wanted to fix him. And we really, as human beings, it's a really funny thing. We start to feel this purpose when we can fix people, right? We feel needed. That feels good, right? Okay, I got some people over here. Samantha, Diane, Tracy, Steph. Oh yeah, Kreslin. I get it, girl. Yeah. You know, this group of people, here's the thing about us. Okay. Here's the thing about the fixer. We're actually really freaking good people. Like we really are. We're empaths, right? We're codependent a little bit. We're natural caregivers. Like we're the ones that your mom and dad, when they get old and they have to go back in diapers, we're the ones they want, right? We're the ones that are going to help them, right? It's why I live around the corner from my parents. I want to help them when they get old. When you wear diapers, mom. I know. Oftentimes, a fixer, when growing up, their needs were not met. So think about this. So think about like their needs were pushed to the side, or maybe the connection that you desired, it wasn't met. Okay. Either a mom or a dad or somebody that was the grown-up in your life, that need wasn't met. You could have also learned that love meant when somebody came in and fixed everything for you, or they bought you the thing, or they took you to Disneyland, right? You could have learned that long ago. That's what love means, is when somebody comes in and fixes everything for us, right? Okay, so the role of the fixer, it just sounds like a lot of work. I like to do minimal work for more pay. So what would we say is like the antidote to a fixer? If we don't want to be a fixer anymore, what would it be? Yes, Coach Ray. One of the biggest things I've learned is to listen, hold space, love, and not fix. Holding space is the coolest thing ever, because you know what? You don't have to fix anything. You just hold space. You just let them have their experience. Okay, the antidote, maybe it's boundaries. Let go, release. Anyone else want to take a stab? You guys are really close. It's detach with love. Detached spectator. Okay, so kind of, right? I'm making up these names, obviously, right? And I'm not creative, so it took me a really long time to make these stupid names. But if we can become the detached spectator, okay? Detachment. I thought of the word detachment and I thought that kind of feels like derogatory. You're detaching, right? But are you doing it with love, right? Because detaching, here's what I know for myself. Detaching can look like avoiding. Who loves to avoid? Numbing out, social media, eating so that you can avoid. Oh, I love it. I used to love to avoid. Yeah, Kreslin, I feel you. You're essentially emotionally numbing. Okay. And you're dampening your own emotions. Okay. Or maybe it looks like seeing the problem, setting boundaries, Samantha, deciding not to step in, creating space, Coach Ray, for them to figure it out. Right. So when we can step back and create a little bit of space, okay, but let me give you this scenario. You see somebody out and about and they trip and fall down and you want to run over and fix everything for them, right? You want to help them up. You want to help put all their stuff back in the, right? That's why it feels like we want to fix, right? Because we feel like we're doing it out of kindness, right? Or you have a little child and they're learning how to walk. Okay. Has anyone ever been with a little child that's trying to learn how to walk? They biff so many times, right? They stand up, fall down, stand up, fall down. You want so badly to just save them from getting hurt, right? You want to save them every time from getting hurt. But sometimes if we give them a little bit of space, they all of a sudden start walking, right? They all of a sudden they do it because we give them a little bit of space. We don't step in. But man, oh man, does this require practice and consistency, like doing it over and over again. Okay. So when it comes to an addicted loved one, okay, or, maybe let's say that you're struggling with something yourself. It takes practice, right? It takes practice not stepping in to save them. Now, here's what I'm going to tell you, because I do not want to come across like I know what it feels like to have a child as my addicted loved one. Okay. Mine again, it's my brother. Watching my parents, though, I know there's nothing more than you want to save your child. And I know that just from having my own children. So not being able to step in and rescue your child, that takes a lot of practice and a lot of consistency. So here's what I want you to think about. Understand the reason that you're detaching, okay? Coach Ray says, so many times crying because I hurt after letting the addicted one struggle through their mess instead of stepping in. Oh, yes. Understanding why you're detaching. Are you emotional detachment versus are you voluntarily detaching? Okay. So make clear expectations of what is acceptable behavior and comfortable for you. Okay. So that's a boundary thing for sure. Okay. When we're setting boundaries, we're saying this is what's comfortable to me. Okay. And I'm not going to accept it. It's so hard when you feel like your loved one is relapsing and you want to step in and help. But the more you try to, the more they steer away from you. Yes. I used to think if I babysat Brad, and I'm not kidding when I say that he wouldn't use. When I could felt like, oh no, is he going to relapse? So making sure you know the emotional detachment versus voluntarily detaching, okay? Because emotional detachment can get a little bit, depressive, and you're numbing your emotions. You're not allowed to feel. So here's what you want to ask yourself. Do you obsessively worry about the person all the time? Do you try to rescue them from making choices? This is exactly, Chase. You don't feel are healthy. You try to rescue them. Oh, Diane, your baby's yummy. Do you feel that you have to tell them what to do all the time? Okay, so those are just some questions. Obsessively worrying about them, trying to rescue them, feeling like you have to tell them what to do all the time. Okay, so just be aware if it's emotional detachment versus voluntarily saying, hey, I'm creating some boundaries. I'm not doing this. The last one is you, Diane. You feel like that, feeling like you can help control. Yes. Yes. And there's so much freedom when we just step back and surrender. Voluntarily detaching, giving yourself permission to detach. Yes. Yes. Because you do have that permission. You do. It's hard. I'm not saying it's not hard. Very hard. So think about maybe auditioning for that detached spectator, okay? Because it's done out of love. The next one is the past dweller. Oh, emotional baggage. How many of us have heard about emotional baggage, right? We all, to some degree, carry unprocessed emotions from experience to some degree, right? Because when we experience something, we attach an emotion to it. The emotion is what keeps us in the past. That's what keeps us there, right? And sometimes we have emotions that don't run a full cycle in our body, so they get stuck. Okay, it's why I fell in love with breath work. So, yes, dense, heavy, low vibrations. Yes, Coach Ray, yes. You start to, yep. Emotions that aren't dealt with, they don't just go away. Sorry. I know it's like people just want to sweep it under the carpet. In fact, making sure none of my in-laws are, they love to sweep things under the carpet. My in-laws do. And they're getting better, but they don't go away though. They do not go away. They just create a whole bunch of stuff under the carpet, right? And this emotional baggage, it can start to affect really the way you think about yourself. Okay. So who has dealt with their addicted loved one in a way that like you start to really question yourself? You start to think, oh my gosh, am I kind of a bad person? Am I this heartless? Am I mean? Chase, you feel me on that? Yes. Yes. Like the way that you think about yourself starts to shift. Yes. Samantha, all the time. Am I mean? Every day. Yep. Yep. Even the way you think about yourself. How about if your addicted loved one has their beautiful angel wings? Do you ever think, what could I have done better? What did I not do? Right? You start to question yourself. You start to think differently about yourself. Yeah. Mom and dad, that was you. Yep. My other family members made me feel that way too. Yes. Jenny. Yes. When other family members are making you feel that way. Yeah. That there was a point where I think my parents thought I was too harsh. And that's when, they would say, you don't know what it feels like for it to be your child. I'm like, you're right. You're right. I don't, I respect that. I feel like the things that I need to do are just going to hurt them rather than help. Yes. Other than family members, them being codependent and shaming you all the time. I question, what could I have done differently? You really start to question yourself when you're dwelling kind of in the past, right? Of what could I have done? How you react to stress becomes a little bit different, right? Because you're always kind of on edge when you're dealing with your addicted loved one, or you're dealing with grief from losing your addicted loved one. Or let me give you this scenario, 9.5 years sober, and you still stress about, is this going to be the time that sends him over the edge? You guys, people relapse all the time. Relapse is part of the addiction story for a reason, right? Is this going to be what sends him over the edge? Yes, to the family members. I've had them push me to give the loved one money when I know where it's going, but then I feel bad I don't. Chase, I feel you, dude. Yes. Yes. Wondering if it's my fault when they're gone. Yes. Oh my gosh, that. So suddenly the way we think about ourselves, the way we handle stress, your physical well-being, walk on eggshells to not be the reason for the relapse. Oh, I felt that. Yes. Yes. You don't want to be the reason. Your physical well-being is going to start to be affected. Okay. Hands down. Hands down. You have dis-ease in the body, you're going to have disease. Okay. It's how it works. And your relationships with others, right? When we dwell so much in the past, we start to become very skeptical. And skeptical is a very low vibrating frequency when we constantly live life very, very skeptical, right? If we're constantly in the past. So keeping in mind those things, past dweller doesn't seem really fun to live in the past. The new role, What would you rather be? Again, these are silly names, so I don't expect you to like nail it right on. But if you don't want to live in the past, where do we need to be a little more conducive to life? The present. Yes. Beacon on the horizon. I love it. That's actually way better than what I came up with. The hope amplifier. Okay. So like I said, the reason we become so stinking attached to the past is because we have had an emotional response to something that has happened. Okay. To something that we have experienced, we have attached an emotion to it. Okay. So it's the emotion that keeps us attached to the past. Acknowledging your feelings, allowing your body to feel them in a safe capacity. I like to use breath, just saying, and release the emotion that is tying you to the past. Okay. So that is one reason I fell in love with breath, is because I realized that it was the system inside my body that I could actually feel into feelings in a safe way. Okay. When I had space held for me to breathe and to breathe out and to release emotion, it felt so safe to me to feel and know that even though sometimes I was feeling anger, it's not bad. We get to feel a whole array of emotions, from shame all the way up to enlightenment. We get to feel all those. So releasing repressed emotions is super, super important to have hope, right? And having hope really is living in the present, right? Because if we're living in the future, that's not good either, right? Yes, please do. Hope amplifier. Yes, do it. Adopt it. So a few ways. Acknowledging your feelings. You guys, sometimes you just simply need to voice your, do you know that sometimes if you just voice your feelings, it gives them less power? Have you ever tried that? Like, that's sometimes what a therapist does for you. You literally can just voice what's going on and have that space held for you. It can make a world of difference, right? Working through trauma. Okay. We all, like I said, trauma is this like spectrum. Okay. Because this was my trauma and this was yours, it doesn't make mine worse or yours worse. We both experienced trauma. Okay. So working through it. Don't just say, you know what, that was in the past, I need to get over it. When people say get over it, I'm just like, oh, please don't. Like, yeah, Trace, I'm not a fan of trauma either. I mean, I'm a fan of people who work through it. I am. So working through that trauma, trying breath work. Okay. I know it looks like I'm very partial to breath work. I am, but just giving breath work a try, right? And just being willing to see if you can't be with some emotions that feel super uncomfortable. Be with the emotions, see them, even picture yourself as your inner child being with that emotion. Okay. Intentional movement. Now, when it comes to intentional movement, what I'm talking about is I freaking love to dance, and I can't dance is the funny part. Like, I really don't really know how, but I dance. I don't really care. My daughter just cringes when I do it on my Instagram. But like moving, getting your energy moving, right? In your body, letting stuff move, free flow. It's a beautiful way to allow emotion, energy to go. And then on the opposite end of that, practicing stillness. Does anyone here have a hard time being still? I do. Yeah. Okay. I do. Stillness sometimes is a little bit scary to me. It gives me like too much time to think. For years and years, like years, I have gone to bed with the TV on because I don't want the quiet. I don't want the stillness. And then when I came to this place just a couple of years ago of trying to do some different things, standing barefoot in the grass. Yeah. On an evening like this. Yes. Eyes closed, just me and my thoughts. So that's so beautiful. You can do that today, because some people, it's really hard to be still and quiet. Like me going to bed with the TV on, I finally switched that and I realized I am actually a really good sleeper. but it's because I put some intention into it, right? And so just being still, just practicing being still and just being so stinking in the moment, in the present. So those are some ways. Hope amplifier. Let's create hope. Let's not dwell in the past. Having hope feels a whole lot better. The worry wart. You've become fixated and worried about the future. So this is more like a future one, right? Worry, it totally serves as a function, okay? It's beneficial when worry prompts us into action. Okay, it can help us plan for the future by helping us think through, through to a solution. Compulsive worrying, on the other end, it just makes us freeze up, fight or flight, right? When we're worrying too much. And when you're constantly anticipating the future, it's futile because no matter how much we would like to convince ourselves otherwise, we can't control the direction that things are going to go. So this is perfect to remember when you are dealing with an addicted loved one. Again, regardless of where they are in their journey, okay? So taking it and putting it into how it works for you, but understanding that we cannot control the future. Like we can't. We can plan, right? You can like save money if you're trying to buy a house. You can somewhat plan, but you cannot have control over what the outcome is. So remembering that when you have an addicted loved one, I cannot control if Brad relapses. I can't. I cannot control if Brad continues to use the 12-step recovery program to stay sober. I cannot control that. I can, if I want to, I can ask questions like, hey, you still going to your Tuesday night meeting? But I can't control it. Okay. And taking that into how it applies to you, that, especially if your addicted loved one is currently in active addiction, it is so hard, but you cannot control the next time they go out to get drugs. You cannot control the next time they go to the store to buy alcohol. You cannot control if they log onto the computer to look at porn. You cannot control if they decide to game instead of go to work. Addiction is not just substance. It is far beyond that. Being constantly worried about the what ifs, it's a sure way to invite the energy into your energetic field. If you're just constantly worrying, it will attract to you. Okay. So also understanding that maybe your loved one is no longer on this earth. There's so much worry that comes from that because a life is no longer here. So now you worry, what if that happens to somebody else? Or you worry your loved one is going to be taken from this earth. Okay. So being in the role of the worry wart, I am a worrier. I worry a lot. I worry very deeply. I am better today. I will say that I am better today. I can hear sirens today and not check on my parents. That's a really good sign. My therapist said, you really need to work on that. Every time there's sirens, it does not mean there's something happening to your parents. I realized that so often when in Brad's addiction, we did have to call an ambulance. So sometimes I wonder if I have a little trauma to work through when it comes to sirens. Okay. So if we don't want to be the worry wart, what do you want to be? What do you want to audition for? I want to read these though, Tracy. I'm getting to the point of enjoying stillness. Mountains is my place. Yes. Yes. Mountains. Confident and brave. Optimistic. Faith. Anyone else want to take a stab at it? Hope. Hi, Farrah girl. Hope warrior. So we had the hope amplifier, right? From coming from the past. The worry wart kind of has us in the future. The present seeker, right? So staying in the present allows us to be what's here and now. Okay. So I understand that this kind of goes with not dwelling in the past, being in the present, but here's the kicker. Being in the present's where it's at. Like being in the present is where we need to be, right? Because when we just come back to the present, we enjoy what is right then. Okay. So some ways to stay present, take a breath. The breath along with change is the only constant in being present starts with the breath. Every time you come to the presence, take a deep breath. Intentionality. I am huge on intentionality. Yes, Tracy, being in the present is where I want to get. And you know what? I'm not perfect at it for sure, but today I can stop quicker and get myself back to the present. It really helps. I'm currently nannying my almost 2-year-old nephew. That helps me immensely because they are only in the present. It's kind of cool, like to watch them because they're only in the present. They don't worry about what happened and they don't worry about what's to come. So being able to stop and be like, oh, that's right. We're looking at the birds, or we're looking at the squirrels that are on the power lines, or, we're whatever. And so intentionality, I'm huge on this one because what is your intention behind everything you're doing? I know that sounds like a big task of like everything I'm doing, but yes, what is your intention behind it? Do you have expectations? Come back to what is your intention? Okay, why are you doing something? There's a reason you're here tonight. What is your intention? Because after you leave this after you leave this class, there's nothing, I can't control you to put these into play. So what is your intention? When people come to a breath session with me, I always tell them, what is your intention of being here? And I really, really let me tell you why I like affirmations. I like affirmations because when you actually embody them with the breath, that's where you see change. You cannot just think an affirmation and have yourself feel it. You have to feel the affirmation. Okay. So affirmation, intention, mantra, they're all kind of coexist together, but having an intention for everything you do. And I always tell people, and this is a Joe Dispenza thing, wake up every morning with a clear intention and an elevated emotion. When I wake up before I leave bed, I take 1 minute, deep full breath to center and focus for Coach Ray, where have you need to come to my breath circle. This is awesome. Yes. I tell people, breathe when you first wake up. Be grateful for that. Full breaths to get yourself into your body. Yes. So clear intention with an elevated emotion. I love this Joe Dispenza tactic because when I do that in the morning, when I come to a clear intention for the day with an elevated emotion, guess what happens when I start to go through my day and I shift? I come back. What's my intention? And what was that elevated emotion? Come back to it. Come back to it. Okay. It's like a workout for the nervous system, coming back to it. So being a witness to the now, that's a perfect example of what my 2-year-old nephew does for me. What is happening now? Okay. Journaling is a great way to express emotion in the present. Now, not everyone loves to journal, and that's okay. Do you know what I also suggest this day and age? Video recording yourself, doing a video journal, like taking your phone, turning the camera around, and videoing yourself. Beautiful Katie Garcia that's in this group. She breathed me the other night and I didn't feel like writing. So I got on my phone and I audio recorded myself of how I felt, of what came up for me. So just journaling, that can really, really be a great way to express emotion. So let's all try to stay in the present. Just see what you can do throughout the day. Tomorrow, since this class will be fresh on your mind, tomorrow, see where you can go. Nope, back to the present, and take a deep breath to get you there. Landing in the present. Who's felt like a doormat when it comes to addiction? Yeah. The doormat. I think we've probably all dealt with this at some point when dealing with an addicted loved one. You start to feel like they literally are wiping their muddy ass feet on you constantly, over and over. It's because we're not saying no. Yeah. This is where it totally bleeds out into our lives beyond addiction, right? Beyond an addicted loved one. This goes out into our lives where everyone, right, will start to see, oh, they don't stick up for themselves. They don't set boundaries. They never say no, right? They never say no. Dad, I love you, but sometimes you need to say no to things in life. You're the best. Saying no, right? Why do we find it so hard to say no? Do you know that no is a complete sentence? I am not the first to tell you that. No is a complete sentence. Okay. Tracy, where are you? I canceled on you the other day, didn't I, Tracy? I said, I can't do it. I know I'm supposed to meet with you. Can't do it. No. Right? We always feel like we have to give reasons. Okay. When it comes to an addicted loved one, okay, I'll never forget this of like, oh, if I say no, what if he goes out and uses more? Or what if he does this? Or what if all the what ifs, right? What if this is the night that he doesn't make it? What if, right? We find it hard to say no because I think as human beings, I think that we want to demonstrate just this like willingness and commitment, just this like, oh, yeah, I'm totally breezy. Like, right? I'm easygoing. You want to demonstrate willingness. You think others, the addict, may not like you if you say no, or they'll be mad at you. Great. Right? I've had plenty of people mad at me in my life now. You genuinely want to help. This one really resonated with me because sometimes that's why I find myself being a doormat, is because I'm like, well, I genuinely want to be there for them. Like I genuinely want to help. Anyone ever felt that? Like you really feel like, Chase, I have feelings sometimes that if I just allow it one more time, then maybe this is when they will change because they can. Yes. Because they see I care. Yes. The genuinely wanting to help thing. It's so hard because sometimes you're like, well, I mean, I don't really mind, right? Giving him a ride, right? Let's say your addicted loved one has gotten to the point where they get their driver's license taken away. That's a very, very, valid story. Or they've lost their job because their addiction has made them miss work too many times. Okay. Whether that's gaming, porn, whatever. Your bank account's drained because you have a shopping addiction. Okay. Well, I really don't mind giving them $20. I really don't mind giving them a ride. You genuinely don't. Right. But sometimes you have to say no because you just can't be that doormat anymore. And you need to have that as a new normal, that no, right? You don't want to jeopardize your relationship. Okay. That's a huge one. You feel guilty for saying no and you don't want to hurt their feelings. Okay. So all reasons that we say no, but then we just become the doormat. Okay. So sometimes just saying no, you don't even have to say, I'm sorry. No, you can if you want. I apologize. That's not going to work for me. No, thanks. Right. I've tried to teach my kids this really young, that you don't have to give people reasons, right? I understand that we kind of like all want to, but you don't have to. You really don't have to give someone a reason, right? So if we no longer want to be the doormat, we no longer want to have muddy shoes wiped all over us, what's a better role to try to play in our addicted loved one's life, in life in general? Come on, someone's got to have something clever. The wall, boundaries, or a door. I like that. Foundation. Mm-hmm. Yes, those are good. We become a boundary boss, right? So you get to set and maintain your boundaries. So it's so funny because sometimes when I start to think of codependency and boundaries, don't you feel like they kind of do this? They intermingle with each other, right? But boundaries, really, you guys, they're sexy AF. They are. Like, people who set and maintain boundaries, I will tell you, I bet you money their inner peace is like next level. Okay. So you get to set and maintain the boundaries. The end. Okay. You get to decide what's acceptable in your world. These are essentially guidelines permissioning what is acceptable from others. Preston's so envious of those who can do this. You know what? I do feel you there. Like, I'm better today with setting boundaries, but let me tell you what happens in my world of boundaries. And maybe people can relate to this. My boundary line kind of shifts. It's a little too pliable. Like, I think I'm being all hardcore and setting this boundary, and then it like kind of gets shifted. Okay. So what happens with boundaries, especially when you're dealing with an addicted loved one, or when you've come into a place of you feel like you can't set boundaries very well, you have to be consistent with them. Like, because if it's crossed one time, then they start to go, oh, well, okay, she moved it that one time for me, so maybe this will be that time she does it again, right? Boundaries need to be firm. No, my mom and I were discussing this. We were discussing how they need to be firm, but they do need to sometimes be movable. Now, here's the thing. If you're going to shift them slightly, that's okay. But maybe don't totally let your addicted loved one or the person the boundaries for, don't let them know. Don't be like, hey, so this actually can move. Like we're at the 5-yard line. We can actually move like to the 10 or 15 and still be safe. Don't tell them, right? Maybe sometimes you just shift it a little bit, right? It becomes a little bit, but really try to be pretty consistent. So, Coach Ray says, hard deciding which boundaries are fences and which are guardrails. Yes. Yes. Tracy, I set them and don't stick with them. People in my life know this. Okay, Tracy. Yeah. You pick. Here's the thing with boundaries. Start small. Start small. Okay. So start with a little small boundary that you feel like I can actually be really consistent with this. Okay. And start with that boundary and then build upon that, because boundaries can be very hard, because guess what happens? The person you're setting the boundary for takes offense to it. I promise they will. It's like that whole thing. Like if the shoe fits, like they know it's for them. Like they know that you're creating that boundary, right? Because they've crossed it too many times. So just understanding that you do get to make these boundaries though, because you get to decide what's acceptable in your life. Okay. When we constantly just allow the addicted loved one to push the boundaries, that resentment comes to mind when I think about when boundaries are constantly right, or you just feel like, oh my gosh, again, going back, I'm such a doormat, like, or I have no backbone. Preslin, I think you said that. Like I have no backbone when it comes to this, right? So the new rule, put those freaking boundaries in place. And I'm telling you, if you feel like you struggle with this one, start really small. And what is something that boundary can be every single day? Every single day, you can be super consistent with that. Control freak is a role that it's very time consuming. When you try to have full blown control, it just, I don't even know. I don't even have words for it, because I used to constantly want to control everything. So I have a huge fear of flying. Anyone who knows me well knows that I fear flying. Guess why? Because I'm not flying the mother effing plane. That's why. Literally. Like that's why I don't like it. But I've realized, like, guess what I get to do on a plane? I get to sit back. I'd like a Diet Dr. Pepper, please, right? And those little pretzels or Biscoff cookies when they have them, right? I get to sit back. I get to be flown to my destination, right? What a surrendering feeling. Okay. So when we get to sit back and do that, you have very little control over another human being. Okay. Very little. I'm even noticing that with a 2-year-old. I have very little control now, right? He wanted to stand in the road the other day, and by God, he was going to stand in the road. And if I went to walk towards him, he would start running, right? We have very little control. Think about a big human being. We don't have control over them. You do have control over you. So you have control over the way that you respond. Okay. And you have control over the fact if you respond or you react. Okay. Responding takes a little bit of space, a little bit of stepping back. The more control you try to force, the bigger the backfire you feel. Yes. Yep. So the way that you respond to situations, stop and look at that, right? Are you reacting or are you responding? Okay. Stepping away from something that you're trying to control can be a very freeing feeling. Like I just mentioned with the airplane thing. Okay. Or sometimes if you just go, you know what, you get to make that choice. And it's funny because on my Instagram stories, I started to put that, because there's these little things that Dominic does, like stand in the middle of the road. Or today he wanted to take the snowblower. He wanted me to pack the snowblower in my car to take it with us for the day. I didn't find that necessary. And I just had to step back and let him push the snowblower all over, and he lost interest in it, right? I just kind of created some space. I stepped back. I let him play with the snowblower. It ended. I didn't have to do much. Okay. So it can be very freeing when you do that. It can also allow the universe and the divine energy. I don't know where your belief is there, but just hear me out on this. When you constantly are smothering it, it can't do its thing. Okay. My old mentor called it a really naughty name, and I won't say it, but you cannot smother it. Okay. You have to Step back, open up, and let it have its space to provide answers, right? Sometimes we smother the energy, and that's a surefire way to not allow flow in life. Okay. And I understand, and I can totally empathize with the fact that when it's your child who is the addicted loved one, that's got to be really hard. And my heart hurts for you, and it goes out to you because you want nothing more, right? So if we can kind of take a step back, be like, I don't want to be the control freak anymore. This is too much work. I'm not getting paid enough money for this role. What could we essentially choose as a new role? Diane, this is what you struggle with the most. I feel you. It's a very, very hard one. The control thing is really hard for me. When I got introduced to the word surrender, I was like, oh, I don't really like that one because that means I'm giving up control. But what it means is I'm allowing and I'm stepping back. So control freak, what would be antidote to that? Who wants to take a stab at it? Anyone? Okay, I'm just going to reveal it. The surrenderer. I had to look if that was a word. I'm like, surrenderer. Yes. So we become surrendered, right? It's actually quite liberating. It really is. To surrender is to release the grip. You're constantly gripped, right? You think you have to have all the answers to the outcomes. Surrendering to outcomes is freedom, right? And my word for 2022 is liberation. Like, I just want to feel freedom. I want to feel liberated. I don't want to feel like I'm gripping to anything too tight. You just get to be with what God, the universe, divine energy, what do they have in store for you? Right? You just get to be with that. Now, if that doesn't resonate with you, look at surrender as a way that you can just allow. Where can you step back and allow? Where are little places in your life throughout the day that you can just allow, right? When we allow versus push away outcomes, there are lessons we get to learn and strength we get to build, right? So breath is a beautiful way to create this capacity for allowing. That's what I have found within the breath. So that's what I have found the most liberating is this surrender. Now, a masterclass on breaking the addiction, our addiction that we have to our addicted loved ones. What role are you playing, and what role can you swap that out for? Where can you do just a little bit better to create your inner peace? Because I have a little snippet for you. Nobody's coming to do it for you. Nobody is going to come. Okay. Smart, sexy, beautiful mom. Come off mute. Let's talk. You have your hand up. Maybe not. Maybe not. Okay. Maybe you didn't mean to raise your hand. Not sure. I digress. I can't remember where I was. In the world of addiction, of loving an addicted person, it can feel all-consuming. It really can. I get it. I really do. Okay, my story, it might look different than yours, of who the addicted loved one is, where they are in their addiction journey. But I hold space for all of it. I hold space for every single person in here that's dealing with any of the feelings that have been felt along the way. There's still days today where I get super frustrated with my addicted loved one. I feel like some of his old behaviors come back, and I feel like I find myself having to choose these new roles. In fact, it feels like when you start to come up with something like this to teach others, it's universe, spirit, God's really funny way of being like, oh, you're actually going to have to practice these like right now, because I don't, I want you to be able to teach from your heart. And that's what's happened like these last couple of weeks. He's still sober, but sometimes your addicted loved one will have behavior that makes you have to practice some of these things again. Like I mentioned at the first of the class, also what can happen is it starts to bleed out into other areas, right? So you suddenly realize you don't have boundaries here. You're codependent on this person. You're trying to control your 16-year-old daughter, whatever it is, right? You start to realize that that kind of behavior that you had learned, that role that you had taken on, is now bleeding out into other areas of your life. So each one of you that is here tonight has a reason that you're here. Whatever your intention is, you have a reason that you showed up tonight. And in the world that we live in, I have to tell you, I do wish that I knew what I know now when I was dealing with Brad in his active addiction, because I've said this to him before. I've actually said it to my parents too. I wonder if I would respond differently today. I wonder if I would respond differently today if Brad decided to start drinking and drugging. Would I respond differently? My answer is I hope. I hope. So I love breath work. I don't know if anyone knows that about me. I love breath work, and I love the way that it allows us to feel every single emotion. I love that it allows us to express, to heal, to amplify feelings that are serving us. Had I had breath work during the decade that Brad was using drugs, I don't know if I would have gotten so spun up in his story. I know that I love him. I didn't always like him. But I wonder, could I have handled things with a little more compassion? However, being the surrenderer, stepping back, not trying to control everything, but making sure he knows I love him. And so what I've done is I've created, beyond this masterclass, I like to call it a journey. It's an 8-week journey of deeper diving into what it really truly does to a person like us, everyone in this group, when you love an addicted loved one, when you have someone who is addicted to something, has been addicted to something, or somebody who has gone from this earth. So I've created 8 amazing weeks that I have put breath work into. So I took, what is something I've experienced? What is something I wish I had? And now how can I put these together? And so I put breath work into these 8 weeks, and we journey together and we talk deeper about codependency. We talk deeper about detaching with love and what that looks like. Okay. We talk about over explaining, blaming, and complaining. That's actually a 12-step recovery thing, but we tend to do it too. Okay. Talking about routines and rituals. Like, how does this help us if we keep a routine and a ritual, for ourselves? Talking about boundaries, how to really set and maintain those boundaries. And every single week we meet, we allow our voices to be heard. We allow each other to share our strength, our experience, our hope with each other. I'm probably the worst person at trying to promote something, but I'm telling you, this is an experience that I made. Literally, I designed it from my heart because I wish I would have had it. Now, Al-Anon, does that ring a bell to people? Okay. So Al-Anon, it's beautiful. Don't get me wrong. My dad is on the board for Al-Anon. It's a very, very beautiful program. There are people, I was one of them. It felt a little bit cold and robotic to me. Okay. Now, don't get me wrong, though. It's a very beautiful place for people to go and to be able to be seen and heard and not judged. Okay. So don't get me wrong on that. What I like is this somatic practice. Somatic is your body, being able to bring breath work into that to feel through. Okay. All of what you're going through. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop the link in the chat when I figure out how to grab it from my laptop that's over here and bring it over there. And that is just simply to get on a call and we can chat and see if it's something that you'd want to be a part of. No obligation. We can just chat, see where you're at. Danielle, I'd love to hear your voice.
Hi, everyone. I just wanted to say thank you so much for all the reminders. Everything that you talked about resonated with me. And I just wanted to like put this out there. That I think there is a big need for a community. And I personally don't have time to go to Al-Anon meetings. Like the thought of hopping on a Zoom like this in the evening and it's convenient and I can still connect with people and get to know people and walk through breath work. Like I think I know there are other communities out there, but I would just say that this is more like my vibe for sure. And there's a huge need. Me personally, I have everything that you talked about. I have a sister that passed away. I have a brother that checked into treatment yesterday. And my mom is a lifelong addict. So this has been something I'm super passionate about as well. And I share with you that like, I feel like I have knowledge that I want to and I want to find an outlet for that because am a beacon of like knowledge because it's been like a lifelong mission for me. And it's still a lifelong mission because it continues, right? You don't just get them into recovery and then it's over with.
Yes.
It's a journey. And so thank you for putting all of this together. And I'm excited to hear the details. And I think there was something else I was going to say, but that sums it up.
Thank you, Danielle.
What I was going to say is that because I've had it so much in my life with a lot of different family members, sometimes I need someone different than a therapist. Like I need just a friend that has been through it to bounce things off of and go, am I being mean, or like, was this boundary like solid, like just a community, like, and rather than just going and like listening to Al-Anon, like, like a community and just being able to call up a friend and say, hey, you've been through this, like, where are you at with it? Like, what's your opinion? What's your feedback? So that's why I love this. So thank you so much.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing that. It sounds like you have had a lifelong of dealing with it. And I think that we do need these reminders, right? And here's my thing. My love language is totally, if it were to translate, it'd be quality time because it's connection. And I just think connection is, and I think maybe more so because we had it taken away from us for, that stint of time in 2020 and 21, that it's so important. And it's just so nice to be seen and to be honored in the experience that we're in. Right. And that's what I want to create. Like, that is my whole purpose behind this. The truth is like, yes, of course I want to make a living, but I would love to just do this for free forever because I want to create a space that people have safety and they can come in and they cannot feel judged and they can be heard and seen where they are, right? So that is my whole mission behind creating this 8-week journey, right? And bringing in breath work into it. Anybody else? Anybody else want to have their voice heard, want to share? Farah, hi, honey. You're finally on camera. Hi.
This little container that you've got is magical, and I'm really, really grateful to be here tonight. This topic speaks to my heart. I have a brother that's had 9 years of sobriety, and he's in active addiction again, in secret. I'm also sober for coming on 7 years. And then I have, like family members. My mother is a really good enabler and codependent, addicted to her children and saving them. And so like this circle just goes on and on and on. It really is a family issue. And I loved the things that you brought through tonight. Changing from the fixer to the what can you control and being in the present moment and moving away from what they're doing to how we heal ourselves. That's been my key in my own recovery, even, is to stop intertwining and being emotionally enmeshed with everybody that's doing all their shit, because we're really just addicted to each other.
Yeah.
And this is just such a beautiful, safe space. I'm grateful for you, and I can't wait for what's next.
Thank you,
Thank
Farah.
you.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing your story, and keep taking another 24.
Yeah.
You got this.
Thanks,
You
Michelle.
got this. Yes. Kreslin, I'd love to hear from you, babe.
So I appreciate everything you've done. As I told you before, today is actually my fiance's, I said 15 year, but it's actually his 14th year. I can't math. But since I've been with him, I had attended AA meetings and actually ended up here because I did the next level experience, because it had like that 12-step AA feel to me. So I've always wanted to go to Al-Anon, but because I'm dealing with my own crap, we'll just go with that, the mental stuff. And so I've always been afraid to go into someplace like that by myself, and didn't have anybody in a community or whatnot that wanted to or was able to, go into something like that. So having, they said, having a community where we can hop online. I know they do have the Al-Anon online meetings, but again, I don't feel comfortable going there. Why I feel comfortable coming to something like this and not something like that, I have no idea. But just to be able to have something deeper. That's what I liked about the next level. It wasn't so surface level. And I feel like some of the stuff, from therapy to AA to Al-Anon, it doesn't dig deeper into fixing your soul. It only kind of touches that surface level stuff. So I like something like this where we can go a little bit deeper, we can get a little more personal, and we kind of fix things. We're not just talking about them and then there they are, like, yeah, they're out in the universe. But this way you're kind of actually getting somewhere. I got farther with the next level in the 10 weeks that we did than I have in years and years and years of therapy. So coming here to something like this helps fix me. AA is for the addict, and I got a lot out of it, but I need fixed.
Yes.
And so something deeper is going to be phenomenal.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. And that's the thing, right? Is we need something that is a community that we feel like we're working on what it is. And here's the thing with Al-Anon, maybe what you're feeling is just that little bit of like cold. There's, specific things that they go through what events are coming up. I want to create something more where you come in, and like Diane's mentioning over here, it is such a lonely feeling when people just kind of look at you like, and they just kind of go, I'm so sorry. Like, it's such a lonely feeling because you can tell they do not get it. And until you've dealt with an addicted loved one, I don't think you truly can feel it at the depth that someone who's dealt with it. Right.
And I feel like that's where in therapy, because so many therapists may not have dealt with the actual somebody in addiction. And I just don't feel like that's something that you can teach. I don't feel like that's something you can just learn until you've actually experienced that, and the feelings and witnessing everything and the feelings that you go through. I don't think that's something that can be taught to just a therapist.
Thank you for saying that, because here's the thing. And some of you might have read the email where I said, you know what, I don't have any fancy credentials behind my name, but what I have is an experience. And that right there is the best teachings come from that,
Absolutely.
is truly going through it. Right.
Mhm.
And being able to hold that space and that empathetic heart, that compassionate heart. Tracy, I'd love to hear from you, babe.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. So I just want to say thank you. I absolutely love this container and what you're doing. My addicted loved one gained his angel wings in September of 2019. And I know I haven't dealt with it. I sort of just think I buried it for a minute. So now I'm ready to do the work so I can grieve and help others, because this is not a fun journey.
No. And you don't have to do it alone. You don't have to do it alone. You get to feel into all those feelings. So that you're not just suppressing those feelings and those traumas, right? Yeah. You have room to grieve, and you get to grieve, and nobody gets to tell you how long that lasts.
Well, thank you. I'm
You're
excited
so welcome.
to be with you.
You're so welcome. Thank you for being here. Tracy had to work hard to be here. So, okay, you guys, I'm going to let you go because I have taken well beyond my amount of time in your life. I love you, Katie. And I did drop the link. Like I said, that is a phone call to talk about if this 8 weeks to journey together feels good to you. If not, no worries. At least we get a phone call together. I love connecting. So I've got the link in there, and then look in my Instagram. I will put the link in there as well. But I just honor each one of you for showing up tonight. Some of you have never met me. Some of you have no clue who I am. Some of you saw a newsletter that went out and signed up based off of that. So thank you for trusting me with your time, that I had something enough on my heart to share with you. Please reach out to me. Instagram is The Breath Within You. If you have any questions, I also have a free community circle that I do every single month. That is an awesome, delicious breath session with a community of pretty wickedly awesome people. Breath work is a really awesome way to kind of start to tune into those feelings that you're having, to be with them in a safe space. Any questions, reach out to me. Know that I'm sending you so much love, so much light from my heart. And I just appreciate each one of you being here, taking the time. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I love you all.